Hello, Pac-Man friend amigo things. We're gonna do a little Naafiri guide. So I played the rework just a bit, and there's a lot to go over. Honestly, I love the rework. I think it's so good. I think it did everything that Naafiri kind of needed. Her win rate went up a bit, honestly, and she's like considered really broken right now. She's actually like pretty insane. One of the harder things about playing Naafiri as an OTP though is that she is banned a lot, and that's very annoying. She's like 40% ban rate or something like that right now. It's like really high. So it's hard for me to actually get Naafiri in my games to consistently have practice. I will be playing it a bit more, but I just want to give my kind of like initial thoughts after like playing it for a bit. I know that's probably going to be nerfed next patch, just because of how strong it is. But I think over time, as long as everyone just keeps putting in more games, Naafiri's win rate should like stay around like 50 to 51% win rate. As long as they're not like completely nerfing her, I think it'll be really good. Just like a very strong jungler. She has a very strong clear right now. Although I don't play a lot of jungle, I have like tested out the jungle clears, and I think it's actually really insane how fast you can clear once you get some items in. And especially if you go lethality too. Like some people go Eclipse for jungle, but I think going Ghostblade for jungle is actually really insane, right? But I want to talk about a little bit of what I'm doing right now. So a lot of people ask me like kind of the same question about Axiom Arcanist. They seem to find that the ult cooldown is really long. I actually completely disagree. I think that the ult cooldown is actually a pretty low to begin with. I think it's at 110 seconds at level 1, and then it goes down like 20 or 30 seconds every rank. And it's really like you have it when you need it. I've never had an instance where I'm like, oh shoot, I can't go in because I don't have ult now. It doesn't really feel that way. As old Naafiri, it 100% felt that way. It felt that way so often, where earlier into the game you weren't able to skirmish because you either didn't have ult yet, or getting your level 6 was a lot weaker. I think that Naafiri at level 6 is actually a lot stronger than she was before, purely because the old Naafiri gave pure stat boosts and 2 bonus dogs, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all it gave. Meanwhile, this version of Naafiri, the Rework Naafiri, her ult does a lot of damage. And that's why people ask me about Axiom Arcanist, right? But Axiom Arcanist is in the same category as Mana Flow Band. And Mana Flow Band on Naafiri is almost a necessity. You need to have mana somewhere in your runes for mid lane Naafiri, because if you don't have Mana Flow Band, you will run You 100% will run because Naafiri is not like other assassins, because Naafiri relies on consistently playing the game in a neutral state, if that makes sense. So, and even now, even after the rework, she's kind of the same. Even more so now, I'd say, because you have to wait before you actually press R a lot of the times, until you get a good opportunity. So you have to be playing around your mana and throwing out Qs and using your E to get around the map faster, stuff like that. So you either have to have Mana Flow Band or Coup de Grace, or not Coup de Grace, Presence of Mind. That's part of the reason why it's like skewed. I'd say more like that rune, I would probably say is better on a jungler than it is on mid lane Naafiri. But even then, I wouldn't even take it as a jungler, because I think Treasure Hunter and Sudden Impact is just straight up better. I've seen a lot of people talking about Hail Blades as well. I think Hail Blades is not that bad if you're doing like the Korean setup, right? I think Hail Blades still isn't bad necessarily. I've seen like how it actually plays out too. I've done a lot of testing. In this game that I'm playing right now, I'm going Conquer with Jack of all trades, and I want to test out the full haste setup where you're trying to get as much haste as you can in your runes. So and I only took Conqueror mid lane, even though it's bad to take Conqueror mid lane. I only took Conqueror mid lane because I was into 4 melee champs, or like 3 melee champs and like a low range ADC. The Conqueror page is strictly tailored to jungle, and then mid lane you want to be going Electrocute or Comet or First Strike. I would say not really First Strike in a lot of matchups because you're in all the minor runes are kind of meh right now unless you're actually actively playing for Jack of all trades, and then you would have to take mana in your secondary tree, which is kind of annoying unless you're doing like a full burst thing where you're going First Strike, Boots, Biscuits, Cosmic Insight, and Sudden Impact and Treasure Hunter. You could do that, but that's very risky compared to Comet, where Comet is like the by far most consistent Naafiri mid rune, where you just poke out people and you can play around your dogs, and you have a lot more, I'd say you'd have more scaling because you're going, you could go Gathering Storm and you go Absolute Focus, and you have better haste runes and stuff like that, right? I think First Strike is still really good in certain matchups. Like I could imagine you could go into Silas right now or something, but Silas actually has a bug. I'm not sure if I have a clip of it. If I do, I'll put it on screen. If I don't, I'll just say it. So Silas R, the way it works is that he steals your ult, and then he actually gains the invulnerability from your previous ult as Naafiri, if that makes sense, where you got like the 80 steroid. And so he gains the 80 steroid, the dogs, and the invulnerability, and the point and click dash, which is actually insane. It's like it's so strong, but you still hard beat him. You still like hard beat him. You beat a lot of the melee matchups in mid now with your W. Other than Yasuo, I think Yasuo is still a bit tricky, but it's way more playable to play against those matchups now, I think. The W is literally just a perfect ability to be able to outplay a lot of the harder matchups that Naafiri couldn't actually win. So like for the Yasuo example, right, you can dodge his tornado and maybe be able to win that way. I also think that I might not be banning Aurelia anymore, because I found that even though Aurelia can still be queuing your dogs and everything like that, if you could just W her stun or her ult in laning phase, it's not that bad. I think honestly Yasuo is like kind of the same, if not harder right now, just because he's like so strong. If you guys haven't seen, like Yasuo's bot lane win rate is like 54%, which is actually higher than the Furies, and no one wants to talk about Yasuo being OP, right? But yeah, so I might start banning Yasuo. We'll have to see. I don't like playing against Aurelia, that's for sure. But for items, it like heavily depends on what your rune setup is and what the matchups are. But the typical build that I would say is like gonna 1v9 games for mid lane is gonna be Ghostblade, and then Grudge, and then either Shojin or Edge of Night, just so that you have a little bit of durability to be able to fight, because you're lacking Black Cleaver in this build, and you would only really do that if you're going Electrocute or Hail of Blades, and that is more tailored to mid lane than it is for jungle. Yes, you can go it in jungle, but for jungle, you're going to be doing something like Ghostblade and then Black Cleaver, and then Shojin, or you could do Eclipse and then Black Cleaver and then Shojin. I think for jungle, you almost always want to be building Black Cleaver, just because one, the move speed is actually really nice, and then two, you're going to be ganking, and if you're ganking and playing with your team, you want to be using the fact that you are a really good applier of Black Cleaver. The Q every dot of it procs Black Cleaver one time, like per stack. So you get a lot of move speed that way, but you also hinder their armor like very easily. And then also your dogs also apply the Black Cleaver stack super easily. So you kind of just have like a permanent 30% damage, 30% armor pen reduce on multiple champions if you're playing in team fights. And a lot of times you're gonna have 2 other 80 champions on your team, so they're gonna benefit a lot from that, right? There's also a lot of tanks going around right now, so you're almost always going to want to build your pen items second or third. I don't think a single time you're ever gonna want to build your pen item fourth, because by that time the game is almost already decided. A lot of people are saying that they want to go Axiom Arc. I don't like Axiom Arc. I think Axiom Arc is a extreme bait. Extreme bait. The reasons for that are that your ult is almost always up already for every fight that you're gonna need to be at, and getting multiple ults in the same fight does not really matter. It just doesn't. It's not the same way that it worked before, where you need your ult to be a champion. For this version of Naafiri, I'd say that your ult is kind of just like your "I'm going to kill one of you" kind of thing, right? And then if you kill that person, then you get the reset, right? So that's when you get the benefit. But if you're playing for Axiom Arc, like, you could just have better utility items on your slot that it's taking up. So if you're going Axiom Arc second, I mean, you could just have Grudge there, and Axiom Arc compared to Grudge is almost always going to be better for actually killing one person than Axiom Arc, right? It just kind of depends on the game a bit, but still, I'll talk about this in like a more full guide with like runes and items and stuff like that. But yeah, so for jungle, you want to be going either Eclipse or Ghostblade first item, and then Black Cleaver into Shojin. For mid lane, if you're going Electrocute, you're going to be going Ghostblade into Grudge, and then Shojin or Edge of Night, and then more lethality after that. And then if you're going Comet, I would say if you're going Comet, you should almost always go Eclipse. Eclipse is actually a really good synergy with Comet because you want the sustained fight, and you're getting the shield to actually poke them back, and your dog auto attack applies the Eclipse, so you just get one Q out, you get the Comet proc, and then you get the dog to attack, and the dog attacks them after you Q, and you get the Eclipse for free. So that's a really good innate synergy for laning phase and for team fighting. So you want to go Eclipse with Comet, and then either Grudge or Black Cleaver, and then you can go Shojin again, or any other lethality item that you want. You could even go Profane second and then Black Cleaver, and then Grudge. Comet is just a really flexible rune for the game state, so you can just kind of like itemize anything that you think would be necessary third for that game. So if they have like Lissandra or like something that where they don't have any poke champions, you could just go Edge of Night third and just completely stomp their entire team. Because if they can't take off your Edge of Night, then you can just run through the entire game. But yeah, so I'm gonna be making a more full guide sometime this week. So we'll have to see. Subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're actually really close. We are way closer than I thought we were gonna be. You guys have been helping me a lot, giving me a lot of feedback and support and stuff like that. So I appreciate it a lot. But yeah, so I hope you guys are enjoying the rework, and let me know your thoughts. So peace.